Please remember to subscribe, click like, and click the bell icon for all notifications on this channel. Tuka and Sterling are best friends whose bond transcends the physical world as they follow their dreams after tragedy strikes. That's the premise of the latest episode of Amazing Stories. This is episode 2 entitled The Heat. Now, this episode started off really weak and really rough for me. Wondering where was this going? I'm very annoyed with the character of Tuka. Typical, teenager, typical attitude. Really, really, this big headed, thinking she's all that, and she's the one that, you know what I mean. Like she was. It just came off really. Her attitude, I didn't like it. You know, and I guess at that age, you tend to think you're invincible. You think you're better than everybody else, and this episode didn't start really picking up until after her character was killed, unfortunately. We see her. We actually went. She went to this illegal drag race, and then Sterling goes after her, and she decides to hang out. But then she gets tired. She says, "I want to leave," and took us to telling her, to stay. Usually the nerds. She would always call her friend nerd and all that stuff. But stay here at least till midnight. But she didn't want to listen to her. And when she heads out, Tuka is kind of upset at herself because she made her friend leave. So she goes after her, and Sterling's not listening to her, even though she calls out to her, "Hey, hey, I'm sorry." And then she just stands out in the street, and a vehicle comes by and hits her and kills her. Um, we then see her come back, but we know that it's her ghost. And she sees a funeral procession and finds out that, in fact, it is her that they are laying to rest. And so she has to find a way to get in contact, especially with Sterling. And with all that, no, I'm not really into this episode. You know, last week's episode was great. See, this one it's hard for me to talk about it because I don't know, very confusing when it ended. You know, we saw Sterling, go to the police with her friend Lee. They couldn't help her, even with the description of the car and everything. Find out through Tuka's, you know, in her head, she's thinking, okay, since nobody listens to people when they're around, she can't be seen. So she starts going around listening to people. She listens to these two guys talking about one on a basketball court, talking about, the car and are they going to be able to trace it and, this and that, And she goes, that's it. And it was at this place called Lex's Chop Shop, something like that. And then she kind of gets a little bit over rambunctious, does Sterling, and she starts destroying the vehicle as soon as one of the guys notices that she's in there. And then the guy that actually was driving the car sees her, and then she plays dumb. Because, in their community, it's like snitches get you stitches kind of thing. So she's like, okay, didn't see anything, ever. She just leaves. And later on, she kind of pays for that. She gets, hobbled. So a guy with a baseball bat, to confront her while she's walking on the street. And he hobbles her, and she's unable to make it to that meet. She even tries to run the race with her bad ACL law. The coach said that if you run one wrong move, one wrong step, and you're going to tear your ACL, break it, whatever you do to really, really hurt yourself. And she ends up doing that. And this is after, you know, after Tuka is able to talk to Sterling and gets her ready and everything like that for the race. She, she talked to this kid who had died. This is the kid who's the shrine they were looking at, while they were alive and wondering and stuff about the kid. He's actually walking around. He pretty much in limbo. He doesn't know how to get to the other side, see the light. Because he actually bumps into to Tuca, and pretty much just tells her, you just gotta do something big in order to, go over to the other side. Now this is where it kind of confused me. Like at the end, after Tuca, is like realizes like Sterling wasn't able to finish the race. She got hurt. She's like, okay, what is it that I have to do in order to go to the other side? And all that stuff. And then it gets to a thing where it's like Sterling is like kind of fighting her feelings, saying that she does care about her, does love her, and apparently this went from a best friends type of thing to a kind of like a love affair kind of thing or a love thing. That they end up realizing that they love each other more than friends. Yeah, I was saying, wow, that took a real quick U-turn. Like, does this really? And then it's like I was thinking, was that what was needed for her to go over? That was like that really isn't really a big thing. Like it's a big thing for people, but it's like not one of those things that's going to, you know what I mean? Like help somebody. Like it didn't work for the story. And then it ends up that we see, well, she's able to physically grab, Tuca is to Sterling, right? And they're about to kiss, and then she starts fading away, and you're seemingly thinking she's going to go into the light. Sterling's like, hold on, and she goes away. All of a sudden, we see Tuca on the ground with Sterling with her hair how it was when the night of the accident, and she's like, begging her to come back, come back. Tuca opens her eyes, and I was like, what in the hell is this? This doesn't make sense. She's what I said that did the confession of love for each other bring her back? Then I said to myself, had to be one of those things where she was between life and death. She got hit by the car, and then it was like they were hovering. She was hovering between life and death, and maybe like maybe the whole episode was like a 30-second time, a space, a piece of time between when she got hit and then when she came back, when she came to. And so all the stuff of her helping or being at the funeral, helping, Sterling, you know, helping her to get get some info and to get behind behind to get get to the bottom of things when it comes to her death and all that stuff and the realization of their love for each other and all that stuff. And I guess that's what brought her back because you know how you see movies where someone's crying for somebody and they're like momentarily they're dead, accident, whatever, and then it brings the person back, right? I guess that's what this was. It was like she wasn't dead. She wasn't dead like we saw her. That was just what Tuka was seeing in her head when she was in between death and life. And for like maybe what 30 seconds or something, she's living out this whole thing, trying to help Sterling out. And I'm like going, okay, so I guess that it makes sense after all. But at the same time, I don't know what the writers were going for, but if they had stayed with that whole thing and then she just went off into into the greater unknown, the heaven and all that stuff, I would have been like, what is that? But then what really made it the episode makes even more sense is that the kid on the skateboard, the one that Sterling was able to see, only able to see because he was dead too, he starts to turn into light and he fades and he goes to the other side. So possibly that was his big thing that he had to do in order to cross over. He helped Sterling and he helped actually help Tuca to realize what she needed to do. And pretty much it brought her back. I don't know if he had a facility, if he facilitated or he did a thing where she ended up wasn't her time, and so she went back into the body of her body, back into her human form, and she was able to live. And then at the end, we see that they're walking. I thought it was a dream sequence or something like that, whatever, because I was confused by this episode. But then, she really is alive. She was back. Apparently, she probably was just hit to not really badly, or maybe she was in this, but then she came back. You know what I mean? This whole episode is just like a lot of things that just bugged me. Really didn't do it for me, but at least it ended in a sensible way. It made sense instead of being confused that the fact that they declared their love for each other and that's what made her cross over. That's the big thing that she needed to do. Like, come on, you know what I mean? Pretty weak writing, if you ask me. Last week's episode, the first episode, really didn't need to be at the forefront of the criticism of the show. A lot of people are kind of doubting the show, and that episode is really great. Well written, well acted. The story made sense, and it made you feel for the characters. This one didn't make me feel for the characters at all. Even the situation of what happened with Tuca, it didn't. You gotta write something that makes you feel at least for the character. Even for the character when they seemingly were killed. You know, I was invested in the journey of them. Getting into the meat and being able to make it to that point so that they can kind of, what do you call that? They can impress the scouts out there. But other than that, it's just like she came back. She was able to come back, Tuka, and I'm like, okay. The only thing that really, really, really brought it home and made sense was with the kid. The kid disappeared. When he turned the light and went to the other side. And I'm saying that's the big thing. He had to help her. But the whole thing of her coming coming back, and I guess it's just because she can hear. Because maybe Sterling, while Tuka was out, while she was between the living and the dead, and her spirit's going around, before it went back into her body. She probably heard her say, "I love you," da, da, da. And then that's what kind of comes together, and it brings it back, and then she comes back. You know, because if he had left it at that, and that was it, and that's how she crossed, it would have totally not made sense. But that's my thoughts on episode 2 of Amazing Stories entitled "The Heat." A weak episode, if I have to say. I really did not was not impressed with it. I didn't like the episode, but at the same time, it's like the episode really wasn't all that. The momentum kind of is slowed down now. Hopefully, the next episode is going to be better. It'll keep in pace with the first episode. But anyway, that was my review and my thoughts on this episode of The Amazing Stories. And for those of you who stopped by and checked it out, I appreciate it. Apologize for the way I'm doing this video. I just was not into this episode at all. Some moments, but it was not. It was just confusing, and at times, even though I understand what it was in the end, but it was. I just cannot. I don't have anything more to say. So, well, as I always close it, oh God. In closing, as always, take care.